Okay, welcome back everyone to another Muffins with Morgan. We do this weekly, and our goal, if you have not been here before, is to bring you the most actionable, best advice when it comes to pipeline generation and how to be creative and how to stand out. And we have, as you see, a packed house today. We got a squad that I came in and did a workshop with, so they're going to share with you what they learned from it, what tweaks they've made, and the success that they've seen on their outbound channels. But as always, as you come in, if you haven't been here before, let us know. If you're repeat, like let us know as well. But in the chat, let us know where you're tuning in from. We'll give it like a minute as people are coming in from their other meetings. So let us know where you're tuning in from, where you're at. Obviously, it's good to see people across the board who's here and what's going on. So we got Toronto. Shout out to Toronto in the house. We got the UK in the house as well. Shout out to the UK. We got some more people trickling in. And today, our main focus is going to be, how can we convert, have more opportunities come through the pipeline in different ways? And we've talked a lot about LinkedIn here, and we will touch on LinkedIn today, but we're actually going to dive a lot more into cold calling based on the feedback that we've heard from a lot of sessions in the past. Cold calling seemed to be something that people wanted to tap more into and understand. And with the team here, Kahua, and they're going to do some intros here so you know who they are and what they're about. We learned a good bit across the board on, okay, how can we actually go about this and leading to success? So, what we're going to talk about today is what is the shifts in outbound you can make to convert more opportunities. And then, from that, we're going to have the guest here talk about what they've learned, what they're now doing, and then how you can take action on that as well. So, as we flip it into it, again, we have a lot of stuff going on here across the board. So let's just dive right into the introductions. We'll start with Jacob. And so, Jacob, if you can introduce yourself. Tell us, obviously, see you on the screen what your role is, but tell us your role. If you want to share a fun fact, that's great as well, and we'll dig into it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Morgan. Appreciate it. And it was an awesome experience going through your training last December. I know me and the team, we took a lot from it, and we've seen the direct impact, of those principles and those values you've instilled in us. So super happy to see those results. I am an SDR here at Kahua. I've been here just under 2 years. And just a fun fact about me is I played baseball in college.
Nice. What positions did you play?
I was a relief pitcher for the University of North Georgia up in Dahlonega, if
Hey,
anybody.
shout out to Deloniga.
Yeah.
I had a couple friends that went there. Shout out to Deloniga. Cool. Well, Jacob, welcome to the show. Appreciate it. Ethan, we'll flip it to you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. SDR as well. But I would say we have a lot of trainings that come in. A lot of people come in and do trainings for us for our team. I'd like to shout out you. You were, I'd say, by far the best training we've had. The best takeaways. So if you need help, you're the guy. But yeah, fun fact, played college golf as well. We have a lot of athletes in the office here, so it's fun. But yeah. Cool. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Oh, I received that. Thank you so much for the compliment across the board. And then Ian, talk to us.
Hey guys, Ian, I'm a sales executive here at Kahua. I'm in my 8th month here, but I've been in and out of sort of the energy business and software for about 25 years. My fun fact, I've been in Atlanta for a long time. I worked the '96 Olympics back in the day, bringing people in and out of the Olympic Village. So really transformative experience, and I think a real highlight for Atlanta back in that time.
Yo, shout out. Are you gonna try to work the World Cup?
No, no, no. That's a young man's game, man. It's like 18-hour days dealing with tourists. It's not for the
I,
faint of heart.
I thought you were gonna. I don't know. I thought you were gonna run it back. You did it. You did the '96 Olympics. You did the World Cup. Just keep the tradition alive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a good idea. Haven't tried it yet.
Cool. Well, that's everyone we have here today, and we kind of already dipped into it with the guests that are here. They're going to go into their tactics. They're going to share their frameworks. But before that, I know everyone's going to ask me. You will get a recording. You will get a recording. Everyone's going to ask, like, is this recorded? What's going on? You will get the recording here, so you do not have to worry about this at all. And so you're going to be able to take this and do whatever you need to do across the board. So you will get the recording. Things will be sorted out. If you do not get it by any chance, you can go check out our YouTube playlist where everything is uploaded. You can go check it out. So, with that being said, I'm really going to flip it back to everybody, and it was already mentioned a little bit. So, Ethan, I'll kind of start with you because you already were going into it. So, for everybody's context here, as it was mentioned, I came in and did a workshop with the Kahua team. And as part of what I've told you all on these Muffins of Morgan, I have my own business. It's called Amp Social. And our main focus is how to increase pipeline opportunities within companies, working with the SDR and the account executive team in a meaningful way. And the goal is to drive, obviously, pipeline from that. And we've been able to do that, across millions of dollars of pipeline across multiple clients with our program Sales Team 6. And so with that being said, I'm just going to go and talk to the people here and say, before I came in to do that workshop in December, where were you at in terms of your outbound? Where were you struggling? What were you thinking about? And then we'll also talk about as well after the program, how did you feel and where were you at? And then we'll go into the tactics, what everybody's waiting for. So Ethan, I'll kind of flip it to you to talk about that before and after, and then we'll go to each person. And then for everybody listening in, then we'll get into the tactics of today.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I would say the biggest takeaway I got from when you came and did your training, I would say is definitely outbounding, cold calling. It was something that I put a lot of stress on, maybe overthinking it. And it's really not that complicated. It's get people on the phone. A lot of people say, I guess, are not conversational enough. It's just interrupting pattern, just doing something a little bit different, and then just having a conversation, trying to get them to let their guard down as much as possible, what you can say to do that. And that's been just tremendous for me. That's where I've seen my biggest jumps.
Yeah, keeping it simple is really always the key at the end of the day, 100%. And I'll flip it to you, Jacob, what your thought process is here.
Yeah, I think beforehand, this was so my SDR career at Kahua was my first role out of college. So in going into sales, I didn't really have a ton of experience calling people, developing like outbound strategy. So a lot of that was on me to just, figure out what works. And I would say the biggest thing that I found myself like not being like before this training was just I could be a lot more intentional about what I'm doing, whether that's developing the proper lead list, doing better research beforehand, and also just some good strategies when cold calling. I feel like a lot of the times I was just dialing and hoping, and that's not really what, especially as an ex-athlete, you never want to hope. You always want to have the trust that you have the ability to secure your goal, and I think that's something that I learned a lot about during your training. And
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on cold calling, so it's good to hear that it was received and taking action on it and feeling more confident and comfortable. Ian, I'd also flip it to you,
Yeah, man.
before and after. How are you feeling?
So I mean, before, right? I'm an engineer by training. I was a solutions consultant for a long time, and we're trying to break into new verticals here. And so I was always trying to come up with like the perfect introduction in LinkedIn and laboring over each person that I'm trying to connect with. Where did they go to school? What did they study? Where have they worked? Could I draw some similarities there? Because I've been in the business a long time, and you completely challenged that notion to me and said, "Don't waste your time with that. Most people aren't going to read it. Just hit the connect. If they want to investigate you, they're going to click on the link. They're going to review your profile. They're going to see you've been in the game, and they're either going to connect with you based on that or not. It's not going to matter how great those two sentences are in the connection request." And I challenged you in real time on that. I was like, "I don't think this is going to work." You told me to try it. I tried it. It's been, I mean, I'm, getting nearly what I was getting before, but I'm getting much more volume. So if you're really just trying to connect with 5 people at a company, if you send 20 blind connects versus 6 perfect connects, the 20 blind is always better. So you gave me short, actionable things that I could get real time feedback on, and that was the biggest like breakthrough for me, which I've told you multiple times.
Yeah, no, and I love that you took action on it. We saw the results and we went from there. And then for everybody else that's tuning in, how many of you all are using the blank connection request? If you're not, I've said this like a million times. So if you're not, my hope is that you now are a believer. Like I'm telling you all, send your blank connection request. You have 200 connection requests per week. So there's no reason why you should not be going out there and doing that and taking action, right? Like that's going to be key. But what we're going to do now is get into the tactics. So we're going to flip to Jacob here, and he's going to walk through a framework that I walked them through, showed them what to do. And then, Jacob, you're going to talk about what does this framework mean to you, how to use it on cold calls. And then as we're going through this, y'all, if you have questions, obviously get in the chat and chime in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, just to start off, I don't know if on my background it looks backwards, but I did write it up there. It's the PLA method that Morgan taught us, and that stands for the P is pattern interrupt, the L is light humor slash a disarmer, and then going into number three, the A is the ask. Before our training, I was going in doing a lot of heavy research into an account, understanding exactly like what they were doing, and just going in, hey John or hey Morgan, I you guys are doing this XYZ, we should talk. And it would really just throw their guard up because they're like, who's this guy that's calling me about this when I didn't even really get the permission to get to talk to him because I'm interrupting their day. And that's where it comes in with the pattern interrupt. It's, hey Morgan, thanks for taking my call. I know this is kind of out of the blue. Something like you're acknowledging that you're interrupting their day. Um, and then that's where you throw in a little light humor of, I know I'm probably, catching you at the wrong time, something like that. And then you go into your ask, do you have a quick moment to chat, before a meeting, or do you have a second? And I think that that's been really effective in me, just getting that first yes. Because once you get that first yes, you can get the next yes, and after you have like three, I think the statistics have shown that's you're more likely to get a meeting off of that. And after you go through the PLA method, I then go into my hook. What I'm talking about. The reason I'm calling. A lot of the times I've had the most success is getting a recommendation or referral from who I need to speak to. In our industry at Kahua, we're speaking to a lot of construction leadership positions and professionals. So most of the time, I will talk to one of their project managers beforehand, and they'll recommend me to talk to the director of construction. From there, it's I go through hey Morgan, it's thanks for taking my call. I know it's out of the blue. Yeah, sorry about that. Do you have a quick moment to chat? I was actually referred over by Ethan. He had recommended I speak to you. And I found that's very effective because they're like, oh, I wonder why. It sparks their curiosity of like, why did Ethan recommended me to speak to you? And then you're able to go into your unique value point. And then after that, just it's a simple call to action. And that for us is securing a meeting with our account executives like Ian. And I think that's pretty good. I know Ethan does something similar. You want to go
Yeah,
into yours?
yeah. I mean, I think you said it. PLA is very important. I mean, if you can get someone to laugh, if you can get if you can get that part down, the humor, if you can get someone to laugh at all, like you're in. I had the like even sometimes I'll make fun of like our name, like Kahua. They'll be like Kahlua. I'm like, yeah, like I wish, like, yeah, it's like Kahlua, but without the L. And and they start laughing, and I'm like, that works. And then it's an easy 5 minute conversation. So I think the light humor is just great. But it's just trying to make it as conversational as possible and almost casual. Just try to be their friend, and like they don't want someone to feel like you're trying to get something out of them. I think if you can make them feel that way, you're kind of in.
I agree. I think one of the things that I know I've had success with it, and Ethan, and I would say about 90% of our SDRs here have some kind of athletic or sports background. We make a lot of connections to people based on where they're from, and just hey, you catch the game last night if it's football season, or if if we're on their LinkedIn beforehand doing that light research, it's maybe we know somebody that went to the same college as them or something like that, and just be able to have that small connection goes a long way. It just starts to build rapport.
Yeah, I think that's great, but like if you can like strategically throw that in, like not early in the call where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, like I stalked your LinkedIn, right? Uh, if you can like kind of get them going a little bit and be like, oh, I like saw you like played football at Florida or something like that, and get them going, and they love that.
Yeah, let's actually I want to touch on that. I don't anybody in the chat, do you all use like colleges or their location as personalization on the phone? And if you do, how? But Ethan, I want to come back to you because I was actually doing a workshop the other day and people were asking when is the right time to add in if their team won the Super Bowl or March Madness? Do I lead with that? Do I wait until I've done the value prop? Like, I know there's probably not a clear-cut silver bullet answer, obviously, but what have you seen in including that? Is it like, do you do the intro and then you kind of squeeze it in? Do you lead with like what you were going to call with them anyways, and in the middle you say, oh, by the way, congrats on this? Like, how do you think about it?
I think it's tough. I think you really have to feel that out, just kind of where the conversation's going. I don't think you want to like try to use it like to save a conversation if it's not going well.
Yeah.
I like
Like, hey, book a meeting with me. Y'all won the Super Bowl. Give me a chance. It's like, okay.
yeah, it's like kind of if you get a little bit of conversation going, I think you throw it in there if it feels right, but I don't think that's on every. I don't think it works in most situations.
So in,
But
in what situations are you using it? If you do use it, I guess is the
I think there's got to be a little bit of rapport built in the call already for it to be there.
okay.
Uh, it's tough. It's not on a cold call. It's not something I bring up as like an initial like try to. That's not my first. I don't really know best way to explain it, but
It's not like
it,
you're in.
it
It's not like your intro.
yeah, it's certainly not in the intro. It's not the first thing I'm going to do to try to connect with someone, but it if you can use it, it works great.
Okay.
But Morgan, if I might jump in, I
Yeah,
have a
go ahead.
pretty good example. I was talking to a guy the other day. I don't remember where. I think he's based out of New Jersey. Yeah, he's based out of New Jersey, and he was having a long time pulling up his calendar so we could schedule a meeting. And so that's when I started bringing up, you a Giants fan, you like the Mets, Yankees.
Right.
Asked about that, and while he was pulling it up, we talked about that. And then after I booked the meeting, we touched a little bit more on that. And then we were able to actually start a little bit deeper dive discovery into like some of their problems. So we are actually able to find more information that'd be useful for our discovery call. So that my AE had a little bit more information on the for that going into it.
Ethan, you got I feel like
Yeah,
that yeah, you got a point. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to compliment Jacob. That's something he does better than anyone else here, or that I've seen, is once even after he gets a meeting, he'll go in and do like the AE's job for them. He'll go do a 10-minute discovery, like make friends with the guy on the phone for an extra 10 minutes, even after he's already gotten the meeting. He'd be like, he could say,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's enough. I've already done my job," but he's he nailed that. Like he does that really well.
I think yeah, Cole just put that in there. I feel like this is probably the most critical thing across the board. And then, Ian, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question on this, but I want to come to Jacob because for everyone listening in, it doesn't really matter. If you're an SDR, an account executive, if you're leading an SDR team, I know we got a mix of people in this room here today. This is the most important advice that Jacob's about to share because this will increase your stay rate on your meetings. And then also, if you're an SDR handing it off to AEs, they're gonna like you more. And then obviously, if you're an AE, like you should be doing this anyways. So Jacob, walk us through the process of that. You schedule the meeting and you're following up with more questions and building that rapport. What's your thought process through that? What are their go-to questions you create? I want to hear more about this because this is very important when you're doing cold calls because people get the meeting and then they leave. And I think you should say a couple more minutes to get more information. So walk us through that process.
Yeah, I would say, when I first started, it was all about just getting the meeting and getting to my account executives on the call. I understood, started to understand. My account executives actually gave me feedback like, hey, it'd be great to have some more information before we went into the call. But I was hesitant sometimes because I didn't know exactly which questions to ask or how to approach the questions. And one thing that we went over in our training, I remember, is the radar framework and how to like ask good lead-in discovery questions. So I approached that situation like kind of like just when I'm talking to the prospect, in our industry, it's a very complex sale, very long sale. So every client is going to be a little bit different. And I tell them that. It's like, hey, Morgan, I understand you guys are here right now. We're working with XYZ, but each organization operates a little bit different. What are some of the things you're going through right now that you think that could be improved in the future, or there are any initiatives right now that are going on that you're looking at, solving by the end of the year to this year? And if they are hesitant on answering that, they're like, I'm not really sure. That's fine. Or, I mean, obviously, best case scenario is they say yes, and then we automatically have that solution. That's part of the radar. That's the center point of the bullseye. We immediately follow that up to the next steps. Okay, awesome. We'll be able to discuss that more, and then I can send you a little bit more background on what we do in that. But if they say no, if they're kicking the tires, like we're not really sure, it's when I go into a little bit more of a layered question, and when I add more context, like say Morgan, you're from the city of Newark, New Jersey. Be like, hey, we're speaking with the city of Trenton as well, and they mentioned XYZ. Is that anything that you're facing as well? And that allows them just to open up a little bit more. You're layering questions in there without them knowing it, providing them a little bit more context into some of the things that maybe they aren't even thinking about. They're like, oh my goodness, that's something that we would definitely want to discuss, or yeah, this has been a big pain for us. I think that's just really finding out and understanding your prospect and how you can approach those questions. And then from there, it's pretty simple. Just keep diving in a little bit deeper. If they start to pivot, you can either roll with them into where they're going to the next segment, or you'll start bringing the conversation back to what you're talking about in the first place. It's totally fine to do either way, but the key is just asking those high impact questions that will provide the most context and information to sales executives like Ian. I think that's been where I found the most success.
No, I love that. And I think, again, I hope everybody truly took notes on that because that's so important to have that process dialed down. This is what's going to increase your opportunities and get you better at what you're doing across the board. So I see we have a questions coming in. We're going to answer that. I'm going to flip to Ian. For you as an SE, right, you're getting these opportunities. How important is it what Jacob just described when you're getting those meetings as well?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I want to make sure that, and Ethan and I talk about this every day, and Jacob and I talk about it when he and I get to work together. I don't need them to be experts on the industry or to know all the acronyms or inside terms. I need them to know our value prop and who else we've worked with, possibly in the industry, and then let me be the subject matter expert. So they don't get. I think a lot of times SDRs like, I've never called into this vertical. I don't know anything about it. You don't have to know anything about it. You know about our product. You're the expert on our products as far as how we can bring value. Let me do that deep discovery. But I think it does help prime them
Yep.
because a lot of people who have been at organizations for 5, 10 years, right? People buy a car every 5 years. They buy software every 10 years. They don't know that these questions are coming. Like they probably never thought about it really in depth. So whatever the SDRs can do could kind of seed that a little bit to get them thinking about it. Then when we come in to do proper discovery and ask questions, leading questions, trying to get to where we can actually start to solve some of these things. It helps kind of like get the lubrication going in their brain to start thinking about this stuff. And when someone's saying about personalization, I try not to use it in the first outreach because it seems like I'm over prepared and maybe a little bit needy. I will wait till the second email. So if I use up all my tricks in the first email and they don't reply to it, then I'm like, well, I can't mention, baseball again. So I will usually keep personalization to the second contact. So I have that in reserve if they did or did not engage the first time. This is what's been working for me.
And then the follow up on that for you, that's email. But when you're thinking about the phone, is it similar, kind of what to Ethan and Jacob are saying? Like, okay, I'm not gonna lead with, hey, like saw you won the March Madness tournament. Like, let's book a meeting. Like, I mean, it's not that straightforward, but like,
No,
it's how are you
I'll see
thinking about it?
if they open up a little bit. So again, people hear our name and I can hear them like typing in and looking it up in the background. Or if someone says, "Is that from Hawaii?" and I'll say, "Yeah, have you been to Hawaii?" And then they'll say, "Oh yeah," and then, "Oh, what's your favorite island?" I think you have to be ready to go off script and be organic. So if the prospect opens up even anything, Oh, my dog's barking in the background. Sorry. Oh, really? What kind of dog do you have? Oh, my golden retriever's barking all the
Mhm.
time. I'm surprised you can't hear him right now. I think being maybe not leading with it, but being responsive and organic to when they offer
Yep.
any kind of minor insight. I remember you used to always say, like, listen to their intonation. See if if you ask them, well, how's that going? And they go, oh, it's going pretty, it's going pretty good. Like, you have to be able to hear that and be able to respond to it. Same thing if they open up anything that you could use as a further way to ingratiate yourself to that person. I usually wait for them to like show that they're willing to share that in a first conversation. But if not, then I'll keep it strictly kind of X's and O's and to what those guys are saying. And then obviously I try to, if I can see that they've have a similar work history to me,
Yeah.
maybe kind of feel them out. The problem with having a long work history is, I worked at GE for 15 years, and maybe if they worked for GE, but they didn't have a great experience, I don't necessarily want to leave with that because they might be like, oh, I hate that brand, or I don't like the way I left there, and I don't want them
Right.
to associate me with that feeling. So I think you got to tread lightly on those regards. So I kind of wait and see how they respond, and then try to be organic, having done my homework, but not leading with that.
Yeah, I think and then we'll flip to Ethan. We'll go to the question because I still see it in the Q&A to comment on what you're saying there, Ian, and for everyone else too listening in. When you're thinking about booking more meetings on the phone, if you're not doing this already, again, another thing to take note of because this will fundamentally help not only your cold calls, but it'll also help you in life. You look at conversations differently. So most people they give you clues, and this is what I shared with the team when we were in the workshop is that people on the phone, people in life give you clues. And so, as Ian was talking about, the way that they articulate words or the words that they say. So, if you are having a conversation with someone and you're saying, "Oh, how's your day?" and they just say, "It's okay," that means so many things, right? Most people will just miss that and move on instead of being like, "Okay," and literally just mirroring and leaving it there, they will give you the information of what's occurring, and it's probably way more than you thought it actually was. So I say, look out for irregular words. Okay, all right, like we're doing fine. These are things you can ask questions on that has more information, but if you don't unpack it, then you'll miss the clue and then you'll miss out on the information you could have gotten. So that's very important. But Ethan, I saw you go off mute there, so I don't know if you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, I mean, not really. I didn't have too much to add to that. I think just talking to anyone in general, they're going to give you so much information, the stuff that they say. I go back and listen to the calls where I'm like, man, they really gave me something here. I completely missed it. And I think
No.
a lot of times we get caught like, what's the next thing we're going to say rather than like just listening to the prospect, and they'll tee you up. They'll ask the
A
question
lot.
for you if you're listening.
100%. They'll tell you a lot. And this is a question that we just had in here, which is, do you all have any other rapport advice beyond sports or colleges or things of that nature? Anything else on rapport building that in that, first 3, 5 seconds as you get on the phone?
Given my age, I use pets and dogs if it's appropriate. And because if I'm at home, people will see my background. I don't use a fake background. They can see I'm sitting in a real room. They can see my kids' pictures on the walls. And I've had people obviously have put me full screen and said, "Oh, is that who? What's that? What's that book behind you?" So there used to be like Room Rater during COVID. They would kind of rate people's backgrounds. I don't know if you guys remember those from the COVID days, and people would be on Zoom calls. But I try to let my whatever is going on in sort of ambiently behind me be as natural as possible, so it doesn't seem like I'm just a person sitting in a cube. And sometimes that will like people will see a picture of my daughter or ask how old my kids are, or they'll see a tail go by. So I think that humanizes you. So um, I don't know. I try not to be on a virtual background. Just I want them to see that I'm actually working, and I'm in a real room.
Yeah, 100%.
And stand up,
You
as you
wanna-
always say. So I'm standing up right
Hey,
now.
you gotta stand up. People will be sleeping on me. I'm sitting down right now, but you gotta stand up. Jacob, talk to us.
I think Ian really made a great point there of just, you want to be as, real as possible with them. I think that's probably the biggest thing to be able to do. So that's a great point. But I think, other than that, just building rapport is the location where they're from. If you're able to know that, that's huge because you can just talk about things that are around there. Understanding maybe their background. Oh, where were you at before you were here? Just understanding more about them as a person. Letting them feel like you're actually curious. You're not just trying to be transactional about getting the meeting. That I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would say there's such a like I think a negative connotation around like salespeople. I think the more you can do to like make it seem like you're not trying to sell them anything, like the better. The more you can just be like peer to peer with them. That's where I make the most strides. But I didn't know if you want to go in this direction, but LinkedIn, just doing LinkedIn research, seeing what kind of connections you can get. Like maybe they worked at a company that was a customer of ours, or just any sort of connections on LinkedIn, I think is huge. You can just have it in your back pocket.
Yeah, well, I guess let's call that out. Like, what do you mentioned what you're looking for if they worked at a company that was or is a customer of yours, mutual connections, anything else you're looking in like their LinkedIn profile? Like, I know sometimes I'll just look at their profile and be like, is this person even is this person nice? Like who am I about to deal with when I call them? So like, how are you assessing it? Like, what are other things you're looking in the profile?
I mean, for me, I'm always looking like see how recently they are in the role that they're in. If they've changed roles recently or changed companies, that's huge. Like that's pretty easy to talk to. If they've been with a customer of ours, maybe if I know that they've used a competitor of ours, like that can kind of help. But I, I, I don't know. What would you say, Ian?
Man, I check to see, where they went to school. I check and see what their interests are at the bottom, like who they're following.
Well, the
So if
interest,
they're
yeah, that's actually a
following,
good point. The good follow.
interest is
That's a good point.
a good indicator sometimes. I look and see how much description they put in their own job description. So if they put like, oh, I worked with if it's a bunch of like generic pablum, then I'm like, oh, this person knows their BS. Or if they say, I worked with this team and we helped save $50 million in a productivity, usually that means that they've used that in a resume and they've copy and pasted it in because they wanted to show like real, you know, measurable dollar amounts when they're applying for something. So I'll try to read through them if they have 500 plus connections, and if I'm connecting, they'll probably connect with me too because they're in that connection game. But if they're a very senior person who's got like 200 connections, I'm like, oh, this person may never even see LinkedIn. They may log in once every 6 months. So I try to do a little bit of detective work on it, especially using Sales Navigator. You know, looking for past colleagues, looking for people that follow your company, using some of the integrations with CRM. I think it helps narrow down very, very large lists into more manageable lists of people that are more likely to be good contacts to connect with. And I also find that mid-level people are more likely to connect, right? So you can send blind connects to people in the C-suite. They may or may not. I think it's purely luck of the draw if you catch them, like on a Friday afternoon, they're just trying to click through and get rid, lower their inbox.
Yep.
But mid-level people, I think also they're trying to build community as well. And so, uh, I try different versions of who to connect with in those sections. But I think if you just look at people generically on LinkedIn, you look for people in this space, in this industry, in these states, and if you get more than like 5 pages worth of contacts, like you're going to drown. Like that's not useful. You want
No.
to really narrow it down so you can, get those 5 good potential connects, and then hope one of them takes your call.
So let's go into that. Ian, when we were talking before we got on this muffins today,
Yeah,
you've been taking some things that we talked about in the workshop from a creative perspective, and
yeah,
people here have been hearing me talk about use screenshots, like have some fun, and you have done that. So if you want to
yeah,
walk through just some messaging that you've done, where you've seen the engagement, things of that nature. Let's drill into that as well. And again, as y'all have questions, feel free to continuously ask questions in here in the Q&A as I see them come in. But we're gonna flip it to Ian, and he's gonna like just talk through what he's done inside of his emails to do screenshots and creativity. And again, the
yeah.
whole goal, as you all know, with these conversations, is to expand your perspective to do something different. These are not silver bullets, but all we're here to do is expand perspective. So, Ian, we'll flip it to you.
Yeah, so a couple things. So I work with energy industry, right? So that's people doing solar development, wind, battery energy storage, classical power generation, some nuclear SMR. And those guys are like very particular. So if they work in wind and you send them pictures of a solar farm, they're going to say, this guy doesn't know me. So I would create blocks of text that were very similar in their message, but they were tailored to whether that person was in which sub industry, and then also where they were in sort of the project life cycle. Were they in development? Were they in construction? Were they in commissioning? Were they in plant integration? Were they in operations? Were they in long-term maintenance, right? Because those all have individual tweaks. So I created 12 or 15 different blocks of text that are basically saying the same thing, but are tailored to that individual. So I could make sure that if I'm sending them text, they're going to see something that's relevant. And sometimes I put little Easter eggs in it that showed I knew something specific about the business. Because I was in gas turbines for so long, I would put things in there that AI probably wouldn't think to generate that look like someone knew what they were talking about. So I would try text, and then I try sending. If you send links or send PDFs, people simply aren't going to click on them and download them. They just aren't. Whether their own software, Outlook screens it out, or they have been trained not to click on anything, and most people have at this point. So I started putting together value props and having a nice image with, again, industry specific imagery, and then some value props, and then text in the image. So embedding the image in the body of the email. So if they're not going to reply to my email, then I'm not going to waste the email I have, that precious transmission that they might read. I'm not going to waste it on something generic. I want them to see something specific, tangible, related to their business and related to how Kahua addresses their business. Whether they choose to respond or not, I can't really influence that, but I want to make sure they're seeing good, valuable information. And I've even A/B tested it with diagrams versus pictures. Also, I will send myself that email as a preview so I can see what it looks like in the side panel in Outlook. So you know how people like go down through and they're just using the pop out view, the preview panel. I want to see what it looks like in the preview panel to say, is it enticing enough to divert their eyes from the main panel over to the right? All of these little things just to see, and preview on the phone, and someone mentioned as well, just to see, will they actually see your email? And even if you get it slightly wrong, I would love for a person to challenge me technically, come back and say, oh, no, you don't understand this. The technology's changed in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Tell me I'm wrong. At least you read my email and you replied to me.
You
I'm fine
engage,
with
yeah.
that. You're engaging. Yeah. So I've been doing a bunch of different versions and measuring. Once you send 300 emails of the same type or 300 emails of a different type, you can start to see if one is being opened percentage-wise more, then okay, well, let's tack in that direction and see how we do. And then as people read emails, even if my next step was going to be a second email, man, if they read my email and they opened it, I'm going to call them. I'm going to interrupt that normal pattern and and call them because they've shown a willingness to at least engage with my material. So I think a lot of people colloquially will just say, oh, this wasn't working, or that didn't work, or nobody answered. And if you don't measure it, then you don't really know. So another big lesson for me, Morgan, that you gave was, hey, if you think you got different ways to do this, A/B test it. Do it 300 times. Send 300 people one version, send a different 300 people the other version, and see if there's a material difference. And if there's not, then maybe it doesn't matter. If there is, okay, then start iterating in that direction. So that's what, especially if you're trying to break into a new industry, a new vertical, a new geography. Don't think you're going to get it right. You probably won't. But you've got to be willing to learn and evolve from what doesn't work. Otherwise, you're just going to keep doing the same thing month over month. So that's what I've been really honing in on the last couple of months.
Awesome. And if you could just quickly show everybody here an example of what that email looks like, just so people can see the visual. But again, this is what I've been telling you all is like, this is what you want to tap into, looking at things from a different lens and being like, okay, how can you take advantage of that, right? That's the goal. That's the premise. That's the focus that we want to have right across the board. How to
So
be
I'll share my screen real quick. So we're using this tool. I don't advocate for any tool or any other, but you can see that I've got basically the same messaging, the same structure set up for solar and battery storage, early stage solar, wind, again with some value props and sort of what Kahua does at the bottom. And then I have the very same message of two different images. So I have one that I call cartoon. Obviously, this is landscape mode. I have another one with a diagram. So like engineers, are they going to be more likely to read the diagram, or are they going to be more drawn to the picture? So I have all of these different blocks of text, again, specific to the industry, specific to the individual, and I send them out, tens, 20s, hundreds of times, and get real-time measurement on which ones are most effective. So that when I do the next round for the next group of prospects, I can switch it up and try something different.
And again, as you see all here, these are visuals and things to think about, right? This is how you can take advantage of what you're doing today and how to go about it, et cetera, right? Across the board. And so I wanna take that information and extend it and go into LinkedIn, right? So we talked about cold calling, we talked about email. Let's dive into LinkedIn. Jacob, Ethan, we'll kind of flip it to you because I know we were talking about what have y'all been doing on LinkedIn. I know the main bulk of your meetings come from cold calling. But what have you been doing from a LinkedIn perspective since the workshop to get responses, get results, etc.?
Ethan, you want to go or me? All right, sounds good. I think first off, I'm gonna highlight this again because this has been so huge for me. Just the blank connects from the get-go. Like that was actually really a big game changer for me because I could just go through and just connect with people. It saved me time rather than thinking about trying to craft the silver bullet for each person to get them to connect with me. Hey, I just connect with them, and if they connect with me, awesome. If not, no worries. It's 3 weeks, and then maybe try again. I think that was fine. Another thing is lead list. We use Sales Nav here at Kahua. It's a very powerful tool. On that, there's a function that you can filter it by people that have been previously at a company and recently switched roles. So how, one of the ways we leverage it is by looking at people in our who are ICPs or our ideal personas that came from current Kahua clients and shifted to another role at a different company that maybe doesn't use Kahua. So we call in there, call those people, hey, I just saw you moved over, um, or you have the access on LinkedIn, and you can go there and you can build a rapport. They already have familiarity with Kahua, so it's a little bit of research, and it builds a familiarity there. I think, I filter out my list based off my territories. I have a lot of different lists. One of them is that new role list. Another one is, who's connected with me in the last 2 weeks. Because I want to make sure I, send them a thank you for connecting message as well within those first 2 weeks, but not like the day of. I remember Morgan told us that is don't send a message, I think, right after they connect with you because you don't want to seem like it's AI. Is
Yeah,
that
and
right?
look, everybody thinks everything's AI nowadays, so you can't be it. You gotta switch it up.
Yeah. So,
I'm
Ethan, I guess,
But
how are you using it?
I mean, I would say Sales Nav, if you're not using Sales Nav and you're outbound and you're behind, it's I will every single person I call, I'll make sure to look at their LinkedIn, like go through Sales Nav and just check it, see if it's updated, see if they're still in that account. I think it's always the most updated form of contact for anyone, I think. Especially depending, like if you're in commercial and energy industries, like me and Ian working a lot, like that LinkedIn's huge. But I mean, there's so many good ways to use lead list and filters on SalesNav to find people that fit what you're looking for, whether it's they've worked at a customer. And if they have worked at a previous customer, sometimes it's good to go to someone at the company who works that account, be like, hey, how was the relationship with that account? If I, is that something worth bringing up? And like, sometimes you want to make sure you do that to make sure that maybe it's not a sour relationship.
Yeah. I kind of
Yeah.
got a question for the chat as well as Ethan. You connect with somebody on LinkedIn. You've been connected with them for about a week. On a cold call to that person, are you referencing? This goes to the chat as well. Are you referencing that you connected with them on LinkedIn, or we connected little whiles back? Have
Mm.
you done that at all?
I think that's similar to like sending them an email ahead of time, like, hey, like or I saw we connected on LinkedIn, like want to give you a call, or hey, did you get a chance to see my email? I do think that works for sure. It's not something I use every time. But I don't, Jacob, do you do that?
It's something I've tried a couple times just to see if it like resonates with somebody or if it's just like I I don't know. I've had one person respond to his I don't really check LinkedIn that much. We might have connected, but I've also had another positive response, like, "Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's pretty cool." But I did send him a message on LinkedIn beforehand, so it was more of I was referring to that message, like, "Hey, we connected on LinkedIn. Sent over a message. Saw you went to it was something. It was a university close by to me, or someone we played against in baseball, and it kind of just built the rapport there. I thought it was helpful there.
I feel like the only times I'll ever reference if they connect with me is if they have a very unique profile.
Okay.
And so what I mean by that isn't like, I don't know, like one guy, he had like the craziest mustache ever. So I was like, hey, oh yeah, hey, by the way, your mustache looks crazy on your LinkedIn. And so like I'll kind of mention that, or like some people have crazy hats, or some people wear like bow ties. Like it has to be like a unique profile for me to tap in. Or going back to Ethan's point, you all know this because I've talked about this, is if they posted in the last 30 days, then I know they have some level of activity on LinkedIn. So I know they at least check it often. So there's a high likelihood if I mention it, maybe. But I found that like I'll mention my name, or other reps will mention their name, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember you. And then that makes it easier. But that's the way at least I would look at it in this example.
Yeah, two quick things for me on that, Morgan. Like I like creating those lead lists because then that becomes your feed, right? You can look at the lead list and see how they're actually posting as opposed to your LinkedIn feed, which is going to be more algorithmic. If you have those lead lists, you can see how they're posting. And I find the little things of liking or comment, especially if it's industry specific,
Yep.
liking or commenting. There was a guy who I connected with who's SVP of a big utility company, and he had a picture of a brand new hard hat, and he was saying it's great to get back out in the field. And I was like, dude, when I was 24, I take that brand new hard hat and drag it along the ground because I wanted to look like I was 30, not like I was 24 on the job site. And he
Yeah.
liked my comment. So I think having those lead lists, as those guys are saying, that gives you a more tailored feed in your LinkedIn. The other thing I'll add with SalesNav, although I love SalesNav, getting data out is terrible. So I'm actually using Control A and ChatGPT to tell me how many people have I sent connects to versus
Mm.
pending versus accepted, because it's difficult to get hard data out of SalesNav, but ChatGPT or other engines I'm sure are great at reading the insanity of an HTML page and actually giving you hard numbers based upon what you did. So that's where I've got my numbers from. So I'm using those two things in parallel, also because ChatGPT can read other things that are on that page. So you can create a nice table from all those people you sent connects to. So just a tip for people that are, if your LinkedIn and SalesNav are great, but getting anything out of them is a challenge.
Okay, y'all, we've covered a lot. We've covered on just to kind of got here with like 12 minutes left. We'll really open this up for an overall Q&A. We'll allow people to tell you where you could follow them, engage with them if you have further questions. Just to recap everything we've heard so far, just for everybody listening in, because obviously as you have sat in here in this conversation today, obviously there's time where you can go execute and do your thing. So number one, that I think that we got out of today was the PLA that Jacob broke down for us in the beginning. If you're not thinking about your cold call introductions that way, this is going to be a massive miss for you across the board. Like this is 100% what you need to be diving more into, using this PLA, using this introduction. This is going to make your life way easier at the end of the day when you do this, right? Number two is we talked about being aware of the situation when there's a cold call and asking those follow-up questions, handling those objections, and getting in front of it overall. And then third, kind of what Ian was just dipping into, how can you be more creative with your outreach? How can you be more thoughtful in the way you go about it? So ultimately you can see that success in what you are doing. So with all that being said, if anybody has any questions, now is the time. Ask any questions to everyone that's up here around the creative outreach, the things we talked about on cold calling, the things we talked about on different touch points. But with that being said, for the three of you, as we do wrap here, where can people follow you, or any lasting piece of advice that you want to give people? We'll wrap up. I'll tell everybody what's going on our side from the AMP social biz. But for you all, any lasting things that you'll want to share? And again, audience, now is the time to ask your questions.
Yeah, I think me, Ian, and Ethan, we're on LinkedIn. We love talking with people about our strategies, what's been working, even like some things that haven't worked in the past as well. Definitely throw us a connect on there. We'd be happy to chat, offline as well. I would say the lasting thing is just, find what works for you. Everybody's different. Me, Ian, and Ethan, we all operate differently. We have different ways to reach success. The path from A to B is not going to be the same. Find what works for you and stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and go. I mean, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, I think I might be the only Ethan Unverzat, so pretty easy to
You
search
are.
up there. But I mean, I'd love to talk if anyone wants to reach out. If anything I've said, you're like, oh yeah, I think you should be doing this something differently, or if you think I'm wrong about anything, would love to talk. And I just any way I can get better. If you want to help me get better, great. But yeah, Ian.
Yep. Anyone can find me. What I would leave to is if you're having a slow day or you got a day set up for doing nothing but prospecting, I like to do email and content generation in the morning, kind of that creative and think about how I'm going to send things. And then in the afternoon, so I can respect West Coast time, just start making calls, man. Like just sit down or stand up, and the first three are the most difficult, and then you just get in that rhythm. So I'll get in the rhythm in the afternoon, just bank out. There's nothing on my calendar. Kids aren't from school. I'll just bang out 2-3 hours of calls
What
and just go.
What do you mean respect West Coast time? You got to get them up, call them at like 6:30 local time so they'll answer.
Ian
Yeah,
said, respect the West Coast.
Oh,
It's like, nah, don't respect them.
That's how you get them to answer the phone.
Come on, Ian.
fun,
Uh,
dude.
that's
Morgan,
too
I
funny.
saw we didn't have a question in the chat, but I got one for you that I was curious about.
Talk to me.
If you had to give advice to your younger self that's they're starting out in a sales role, what's like the top one thing you'd tell your younger self?
My younger self when I started 10 years ago, or my younger self in today's age?
Uh, your younger self, when you first started.
Okay. I would have spent 3 months deep with customer success. I just would have spent all my time learning every single use case. You can have it going, every single use case, every single understanding of our industry, and I would understand the customer in and out because once I understand that, then all the skills I learn are just added bonuses because now I already know the language and now I can everything we just talked about today and that I know I would have basically moved even faster in the role across the board. So I would have spent all my time with customers. And even if I had to go into an organization today, I would spend literally no time with really anybody else besides, okay, what are the customers saying? What's the talk of the town? What do they care about? And then now I can formulate my hypothesis on what type of outbound and how do I need to sell. So my younger self, that's what I do. Spend all my time with customer success for like 90 days deep. That's what I would do.
What about the other option now? What would you tell your younger self in today's age?
So that the customer piece would be in the top three,
Yeah.
but the number one thing that I would do is I would go in the CRM and I basically would just pull a report of like the customers and I'd be like, okay, I'd put it in AI and be like, okay, tell me what industries do we sell the best? Which personas are actually buying this? What are the because like in the Salesforce reports it tells you like why they won the deal. So then it's like, okay, why did they win this deal? And so I would just sit and study and analyze that across our last year's data, and then it would give me an understanding of, okay, the reason that people buy this product is because of these three reasons. And so now I'm gonna use that moving forward as let's say I was starting out as an SDR. Now as an SDR, I know exactly who to go target. I know what industries that people care about. I understand everything across the board and I can go execute. 10 years ago, like you would have to do that manually. So I just would have gone to the customers first. But with AI, I could just put a report in there. I could tell it what to find. I could tell it what to decipher. And then I would just leverage AI to get the insights and data that we already have so that I can be more proactive and thoughtful in the way I reach out. So that would be the difference that I would take if I were to start today.
Yeah, that's great. I love the like the CSM aspect, just learning the customer and learning the industry. Like, man, that's
100%.
invaluable. I wish I would just that's all I would have done the first 3 months I started here.
That's it. I like that's why I got cooked the first 3 months when I first started as an SDR because I was like, I need to learn the hacks of the emails and the calls and like I was learning these hacks, but I really didn't know why I was calling a VP of marketing or CMO. I had no idea. I didn't know what I was doing, and so I remember that fourth month, I messaged the director of success of customer success and I was like, hey, like I know this is gonna sound odd, but I just want to listen to the calls. Like I want to hear what's going on. And I remember within that 30 days, I was able to speak the natural language and then my skills started catching up to that language. And it was a complete difference. And I think obviously on LinkedIn, you can go follow me or whoever for sales tips, but I actually think that's not the best route for you to go initially. I think that you should like not actually go on LinkedIn for at least a couple months when you start your link or your SDR role, and you should only be talking to people that are customers because you're gonna get too confused by the advice that's out here. I would just tell you go speak to the customers because they're gonna know more than me. Those are the people you're talking to. You're not selling to me. You're selling to the VP of IT, the data scientist, the VP of marketing, et cetera. So that's why I would start with that immediately if I had to go back. It's a good question. Got me fired up. Got me fired up. All right, y'all. So lasting thing, you've been on here before. We're gonna talk about, what are we doing over here? Why do we do these webinars? So I always share this, like this has just been really cool. So, with the client that we worked with within the SaaS space, this is what we were able to do with them, which was pretty cool. We have a program called Sales Team 6. If you have not been on these Muffins and Morgans before, this is the business that we run. This is the program that Jacob, Ethan, and Ian just went through. So with one of the clients, we were able to contribute $21 million in pipeline, as you see, 29% increase in opportunities, 26% meetings booked, and 80% increase in that LinkedIn activity. And that's the goal, and that's what we're focused on here based on the tactics that we've shared. So if you're a SDR AE sales leader on the call today and you're wondering, okay, I've heard these things on how I can do better at outbound. I want my team to be more creative in their approach. I want them to think outside the box, just like we talked about today. Well, this is the program we're tapping into. So as you see here, you can read out what this program is. So we got a 45-day program that we go into. We really focus on how do we account orchestration, right? Sales nav. How do you get better at sales nav to actually target and build quality meetings? Multi-touch approach. How do you use LinkedIn messaging? How do you increase your acceptance rate, like we just talked about? And then most importantly, we just broke this down today deep. How do you get better at cold calling? How do you break through the noise? How do you handle objections and be confident? And then we have live coaching sessions with the team so that they can make sure that they can get better at this as a whole. So again, if you are a sales leader on the call today, you're an SDR, you're an AE, this is something you absolutely want to tap into. This is for B2B sales teams at a 15 grand investment. So this is something that, again, if you want to tap into, there will be in the chat an assessment if you're like, hey, this is something I want to dive into. Even if you are a rep and you think this is beneficial for your team, this is something that you can tap into as well, that you can learn from us and continue to get better, right? That's going to be the goal. So with that being said, I hope that everyone has a fantastic weekend, Friday. Any lasting thoughts, y'all, as we go into the weekend, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, have a great weekend and enjoy them.
Yeah, you have fun. I mean, it's what we do Monday through Friday for.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hope you all have a blessed weekend. And yeah, y'all take this information, go execute, and we'll see you on the next one.
So, thank you, Morgan.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Cheers.